So today we move on to the subject of net zero. The Climate Change Act 2008 legally commits the UK to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The main gas which we're committed to reducing emissions of is carbon dioxide, or CO2. CO2 is basically plant food. It's essential to life on Earth, and if it falls below 150 parts per million, all plant life would die, and eventually the animal kingdom would too. Historical records show that CO2 levels have fluctuated wildly for thousands of years, sometimes being up to 15% higher than current levels. So you're probably thinking that it seems pretty reasonable for the UK to have a climate policy. It does, but only if that climate policy is based on some rational premises. A climate policy is a bit like an insurance policy, in my opinion. It needs to pass the basic tests. Does it provide real cover at a cost that's proportionate to the risk? And is it affordable? Let's think about that. If the plan is to transition from oil and gas to renewables, in other words, solar and wind mainly, is that a rational thing to do? According to the Director of Energy at Net Zero Watch, Dr. John Constable, the answer lies in some pretty basic physics. Solar and wind are diffuse, low thermodynamic energy sources. In other words, they don't do much work. They've got a sizable intermittency issue, and although it's suggested that they're cheaper, thermodynamically the numbers don't really stack up. Renewables are of course subsidised very heavily in the UK, to the tune of around £12 billion per year, not including the system costs. But even if all the science did add up, which seems slightly doubtful, there's a more insidious problem with net zero, which makes it an even less rational choice. The CO2 footprint of the UK's imports is excluded from our net zero targets under the Climate Change Act. What does that mean exactly? Well, taking it to its logical conclusion, in order to achieve net zero and do our bit to save the planet, it seems that all we need to do is to offshore our entire manufacturing industry and CO2 footprint to third-party countries. If you're getting the feeling right now you may have been missold an insurance policy, I'm with you. I'm going to let you digest that thought for a while whilst I think about the next video, energy. We should be able to post that by the end of the week. I'm still Graham Drage, I'm still the Reform PPC for Godalming Ash, and yeah, you guessed it, I'm the man who's going to replace Jeremy Hunt on the 4th of July.